organizations are they working in, and what education levels do they have? And so we identify the key 3 industries that we have strengthened in the West Valley. And I show this slide here because it shows you that of a survey of site selectors, 46% of site selectors look for, their number one thing is looking for an available skilled workforce in wherever they're locating before they make that decision. Then obviously they're going to look at competitive labor costs, site availability, business-friendly environments, and so on. But really they look for having that talented workforce in place from day one. So we created this West Valley Regional Workforce strategy called West Valley Pipeline, and we are actually presenting our 3rd annual update of this 5-year plan tomorrow, which means we've been implementing this plan now for 3 years. We started with a lot of data collection and then hired a consultant that did a really thorough interview process of our stakeholders in the West Valley. Over 100 stakeholders from all 3 sectors, the business sector, government, education, and then also the nonprofit sector too. And with that, they created West Valley Pipeline, or we created West Valley Pipeline. So now we're in the action phase, and we've been in the action phase, like I said, for about 3 years. One of the key things that came up during that stakeholder outreach is that a lot of our stakeholders still had outdated perceptions of who the West Valley is and where we are today. And so learning that back then, we knew that we had to create a marketing committee, because if we had outdated messages ourselves, well, how can we expect anyone else to believe that we're different today? So the 3 pillars of West Valley Pipeline is one key pillar being marketing. The other one is industry partnerships. It's wonderful to have all these great schools here, but if they're not connected directly with the businesses that are here or that are coming in, there might be a misalignment. And today, the students are making choices whether or not they want to get that college degree and what types of degrees that they want to get. And so it really is important for the education community to really be paying attention to what the industry needs are, and when they graduate a student, that student is employable right away. Another key area in that plan is outreach, continuous outreach. And so for a couple of years, it was kind of boring, I'll be honest. But this last year, it really has changed. We're really looking at all the industries and seeing that across, I'm sure you've talked to every single industry out there, and they have a challenge with workforce today. So while 6 years ago or 5 years ago, we were not really focused on the construction industry, because at that time, 75% of the construction workers in the region lived in the West Valley. Today, that's a little bit of a different story. So we are now adding construction as to one of our focus areas. So our target industries that we're all looking for, and when I say we all, I mean all of the cities, it would be advanced business services, which is finance and insurance, advanced manufacturing, aerospace and engineering, health services, IT, transportation and logistics, and as I just mentioned, we're adding construction to that area. Any questions about that section?
Council,
yes.
Yeah, Brandon?
Yeah, so I guess going back to workforce development, how are you reaching out to all the new employers? Are you calling them yourself, or is there that team of workforce people, or how are you getting the data, I guess, to try to put the pieces together for them?
So Mayor Lord, Vice Mayor Hampton, that's a great question. And the way we do that is really with partnerships with the cities. So when a company is coming in, a lot of times the cities will bring us in, or GPEC or ACA will ask us to join a meeting and talk about some of the resources that are here locally. A lot of times we'll host meetings at our conference room at Westmark and bring those in. So that's how we really develop the relationships with the businesses that are coming in. The businesses that are already here, we're working with them through our membership. Many of them are in our membership. This past year, we had, as part of the implementation of West Valley Pipeline, we had a series called Industry Spotlight. And so each industry spotlight, every other month, we focused in on a different industry. So healthcare, for example, we invited a lot of the healthcare providers in, along with the education partners that have healthcare programs, and then really just had a dialogue. So these are the shortages that we're dealing with in healthcare. These are the programs that we need to create. Are we creating them? What's the timeline? What's needed to make that happen?
Okay, and then the data you're saying about what people are looking for. I know you said what's slides that? Slide 8.
See if I can go back.
The pipeline report, that's updated every year, right? I assume.
West Valley Pipeline is updated every year.
Okay.
Yeah. So that report, that the cover of that is from year 1. We did, obviously, we're now up to year 3. So that's tomorrow at Astoria Community College. So if you're free between 8:30 and 10:30.
And then I know we're all members of it, but like go back to the workforce, do you then feed that information out to people that aren't there, or or to Lori or the different cities about what the needs are of the employers in their city?
Yes, we're always engaging with our members, giving them the information that we know. Emily joined me today. She's going to be handing out, or I think Lori passed them out, some of the brochures and pieces that we have. So we put together a lot of this information and then absolutely share it with our members, and then also encourage our members to share it with theirs and to put it on their websites.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I think you can go ahead.
All right, great. So our second goal is marketing the West Valley with one voice. And you may wonder, how do you bring 15 communities together and have them on the same page with one message? And when it comes to economic development and growing our communities, that's the easy part. So you find really something that we're all striving towards, which is growing our community, enhancing our economic development, and you get everyone on the same page. And while everyone has pride of ownership in their own individual communities, we all know that companies look at a bigger area. So while they're maybe locating in Goodyear, the workforce may be coming from outside of that area. And so it's strength. We have a lot of strength in our numbers. And so we really promote that 1.7 million residents and our workforce numbers. 63% of the West Valley's population is workforce age. And again, going back to, some of the information that we learned when we thought, well, everybody knows we're a younger community. That wasn't the case. So these numbers really put a lot of strength behind our marketing messaging. The average household income, now this is average across the entire West Valley, is $75,566. Obviously, we have communities that have stronger numbers than that. We have communities that have weaker numbers than that. So that is the average. And so again, more attention grabbing, because once, when a company is looking at an area, they're not necessarily zeroing in immediately on that community, right? They're looking at the state, they're looking at the metro region, they're looking at the subregions on either side of the valley, and then they start drilling further into it. So we're capturing them with these bigger numbers. One of the numbers I'm really proud of is the median age in the West Valley. So it's listed as 35, but technically it's 34.8. And that's really important. And as many of you know, I never compare the East Valley to the West Valley. I think that, all of our communities have a lot of merit. We stand on our own, and there's no reason for comparison. But I find this number really interesting. The East Valley's median age is 36 years old, inclusive of ASU campus. So that's pretty stark when you think about that. When you think about that much younger college population and you add it up, it's pretty stark. So we're 34.8 years old. Some of the other information that we promote and we revise every year, we have another data partner specific to workforce, and that's CBRE. They're a commercial real estate company. And we really market and revise every year our targeted industries. So how many employees do we have in each of these areas? How many businesses do we have in these areas? And what are some of the new businesses that have come in? So that's what this slide is showing. And I believe you have a handout, or you will, it's a brochure that this is one of the pages from that. So we again, promote that every year. And one of the things that I say is my favorite part of my job is I get to talk about all the cool things going on in the West Valley, right? No matter which community it is, no matter which city it is, I get to talk about the awesome things that's happening. And you might notice, you might recognize that that is actually the Goodyear Recreation Campus up top that's just been opened. So again, these assets are really important. They're really important for quality of life. We really promote the location that we are in, the accessibility to California, just everything that's great about the West Valley. Some of the major attractions, they're listed all here, but obviously we are the sports mecca of the region and the state. We have all the major things going on. We have great hiking, great sports and recreation, and just a great place to be for anyone that enjoys being outdoors. But what I like to say the secret sauce is about the West Valley, and Mayor Lord certainly knows this, is how cohesive we are as a community. And I think that comes from the leadership of the mayors. They're all very cohesive. They all get along really well and support each other's goals. And that really trickles through to the staff, through the city managers, and then the community. One of the things I love about living in the West Valley is how I run into people at the grocery store, kids that were in my Girl Scout troop. I run into their parents still, and I'm friends with their parents still on Facebook. So it's really cool to see how this community has remained over the 22 years that I've lived here. Very cohesive, very engaged, very supportive of one another. And again, I think that shows that that's coming directly from the leadership of the cities. So I mentioned marketing a lot because what we do is we really feature the West Valley in the best light possible. And we do that through several partnerships. So the Arizona Business Magazine, that's the Redefining the Region. It's over on the left-hand side. And we have the most updated copy sitting in front of you, and it's titled The West Valley is Booming. So when you read through that, you'll see different stories. Every year we work with AC Business Magazine, and we are featured in the July issue. This is about 17 or 18 pages of that magazine. The magazine is huge, and it goes out to over 80,000 C-suite around the state. And so we get a dedicated portion every summer to really highlight our goals, our accomplishments for the previous year, and our goals for where we're going next year. So take a look at that. You'll see a lot of references to Goodyear, to your neighboring communities, and to your partners. We also put out pieces specific to the West Valley that are run through Westmark. The Experience the West Valley is a piece that was put out a few years ago, and that was really intended. You hear me talk a lot about numbers, and I'm very much a numbers person because it backs up what you think and what you're messaging, and it gives it that oomph behind it. But what we did with this Experience the West Valley piece is we wanted companies to really see what it's like living in the West Valley. So obviously you're not going to be able to thumb through that graphic sitting there, but that piece really is a visual representation of who we are. The Why West Valley, the Metro Phoenix report, that's more of the numbers that I shared a little bit earlier. This is the latest piece that we created, and that's also sitting in front of you. This piece is called All Roads Lead to the West Valley. And what we did was, with Prop 400 coming up, the extension of Prop 400, looking at the important infrastructure investments that's happened in the West Valley over the last almost 20 years, and seeing what that has done for us for economic development, we wanted to extract that out and highlight those things. And equally as important is we wanted to show investors that there's specific uses on specific corridors, right? So if you look at I-10, you'll see that there's really a medical corridor that's a natural medical corridor that's kind of shaped up over the last 15 years or so, starting in Phoenix on the 101 and kind of I-10 with Banner Strayer Hospital. You start moving west through Avondale, and there's Copper Springs Hospital, Phoenix Children's Hospital, keep going into Goodyear, there's Abrazo, Mexico, Cancer Treatment Centers, Adelante Healthcare, and go into Buckeye, and you'll see investments by Banner Health. So we're really seeing that happen along that McDowell Road, I-10, north and south of I-10 corridor. And I think that's a really important thing to point out. So that's also featured in that. In this piece, you'll also see entertainment opportunities along the Loop 101 corridor, obviously Loop 303 being in a specific area being geared towards manufacturing and industrial properties and projects. And one of my favorite projects you'll see in there is the Globe investment in the City Hall and new Class A office. So our regional partners, I'm not sure what happened to that very top slide, but that very top slide says GPEC and ACA. So it magically disappeared. That does not mean the relationship has disappeared. But I wanted to show you, I have that in there to show you that, every agency does something slightly different, but at the end of the day, we all come together to work on behalf of the region. So GPEC and ACA, as I kind of mentioned to you, Vice Mayor, earlier, is when they have a lead, they're the lead generators. Westmark does not generate leads. Occasionally, we'll get a call from a company, but 9 out of 10 times that will come to GPEC, ACA, or the cities directly. When they come that way, then GPEC, ACA, or a city may contact us and say, hey, do you have specific information on these education programs or these housing opportunities, or what are the right partners to bring together to really help take that project over the line in our community? And so that really is the way we work with both of those agencies. We don't do lead generation like they do. They're experts in it. They're great at it. What we do is we supplement what they do in terms of information and specifically data. And we're getting more and more data requests, and we're getting more and more into the data space, because that really, again, helps supplement and helps make the region a lot stronger. We also, and I'll share a little bit more on it, we also work with the Foreign Trade Zone, the Greater Maricopa Foreign Trade Zone, Zone 277, to help market them what they do, and then also to help with their administrative services. There we go. So GMFTZ Zone 277 has been, obviously, as you all know, has been in place for a little over 10 years. It has been wildly successful. Harry Paxton has been a true champion, and I think we call him the godfather of that one, bringing in, to date, 16 companies, obviously a lot of job creation, almost 15,000 jobs, and incredible capital investment into the region. So really just has been not only an investment in the West Valley, but has also brought some big names to the West Valley that has made other companies, maybe not necessarily in that same manufacturing space, but because some of these big companies are here, they're looking at the West Valley. Any questions about that section?
Council, any questions? Brandon?
I had a quick question.
Yes.
I saw on the slide, where's Whole Foods in the West Valley? I saw a slide.
I'm sorry.
Where is Whole Foods in the West Valley?
Whole Foods in the West Valley? I
thought it was one of the expanding in the West Valley. I was just curious.
Oh, that would be, I'm sorry, that would be their logistics center.
Okay.
Yeah. You're talking about the retail store.
Okay, yeah, I was curious. If you want to bring those guys, that'd be great too. So.
Yeah, just as long as I don't show Trader Joe's
we want it all.
Logistics center, right?
We want it all. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So obviously, as a membership organization, we want to make sure that we're always working towards increasing our member value and staying current with what our members are looking for and serving them well. So I like this slide. What have you done for me lately? We're in the game of regional marketing, right? We tell our voice as a region in a loud way. We're very, very active on social media, as many of you know. We put on awesome networking events that many of you attend. One of the things that we've done prior to COVID very successfully and through a membership request is hosting job fairs or career fairs on expos, on healthcare career expos. And we don't do that as Westmark. We're not built that way. We don't know how to put on a job fair, but we know how to partner with those folks, and we have those partners. So Arizona at Work, Goodwill, Career Connectors, those are all of our partners that we bring together to make sure that we're serving the region. And one of the great success stories that we had that really kind of jazzed us all up about 4 years ago is we had a career expo, and this young lady came in, and she was kind of, at her wit's end. She just graduated. She'd been looking for a job in nursing. She could not find a job. She was getting ready. She lived in Surprise, and she was getting ready to take a job in Mesa because her husband said, "Guess what? You got to start paying for your tuition." And so we said, "Absolutely not. We will make sure that you find a job today." She did. Several of us got around this woman, and we actually put together a video on it because it was such a cool story. But she actually found a job working as a charge nurse in one of the facilities in Surprise. So not only did she not have to make that commute to Mesa, but she found a job that was right there in her own community. And so that's really the success of these. And we found that if we do it by industry specific, we're able to get a lot of attendees there, and they do have great job success through it. It became so popular that we're charging companies to participate in it, and they were asking us to continue to put more on. We were going to do it once a year, and they asked us to put it on every 6 months. So prior to COVID, that was the schedule that we were on, and we hope to continue that. In 2019, we really took a deep dive into Class A attraction. And one of our great partners is your great partner, is Globe Corporation. They just jumped into it with us and led that effort alongside Westmark. And in 2020, we had a very successful event at CBRE. In fact, Julie was one of the presenters at that event. And then that was February of 2020. We were in the Phoenix Business Journal at 3 p.m. that day. Got a lot of kudos from everyone. And then in March, we were in the pandemic. That has not really, it might have slowed things down a little bit, but as you all know, we're all coming out of that, and we're all seeing that increased attention to the extent that there's also going to be Class A office investments in the Westgate area by investors along that area. So I would like to say, as you all know, that Goodyear has absolutely been the leader in that effort, and a partnership with Globe and Ryan Companies has really been the model for what others are looking at doing and starting to do right now. We also, during 2020, started having more specific topic forums and webinars, and featuring your projects, projects that are in your community, or even our members' projects. The other thing that we do is obviously brand awareness, and by providing some leadership opportunities. And so here are some of the leaders that we have at Westmark that reside in your city hall. Obviously, Mayor Lord, she is tried and true. I don't think you've ever missed an executive committee meeting.
Not since you were hired.
I think she wants to just watch me and make sure I'm doing my job. I don't know. Obviously, my goodness, we don't have Councilmember Kano on that slide. Faux pas. So leadership opportunities is definitely something that we continue to provide. Brand awareness. We also continue to have events in your communities. So this last year, we had the legislative breakfast at Goodyear Recreation Center. We had our golf tournament at Estrella Mountain Ranch, at the Estrella Golf Club. And so we continue to really highlight our different communities that we participate in and make sure that we're highlighting your assets. Just, again, more visuals on our networking events. This slide is somewhat new to the presentation and customized to every community. I started looking at we have the relationship with City Hall, clearly. But what I wanted you to see on this slide is the other partners that are within the Westmark membership that are in your community that are actively involved in the work that Westmark does. Homeless Youth Connection, Microsoft, obviously the Foreign Trade Zone, Abrazo, Arizona at Work, Dignity, Valley Metro, I can go on and on, but you can see them right there. But they're all in your community, and they all participate very actively at Westmark. Again, I talked a lot about the career expos and the benefits there. Really, we get very qualified candidates at these career expos. One of the things that we, again, pride ourselves on is bringing educational forums and topics to our communities based on what our members are asking us to do. So obviously, technology has really come to the forefront in the last 20 months of our lives. I don't know about you guys, but I still have a hard time every now and then getting on a Zoom meeting. I shouldn't, but I do. And so it's definitely been quite disruptive. And so our tech summit coming up on December 2nd at the Wigwam will really be talking about how technology has influenced and changed some of our key industries, and how artificial intelligence is also affecting our daily work. I mentioned some of the webinar series that we had this last year, West Valley Open for Business. This was actually driven by a company that's a Goodyear partner, Flight Goodyear. Daryl Burton sent me an email shortly after he joined, which was in March of 2020, and he said, "You should have my check now. What can we do to jump in and get engaged?" And I thought, oh man, we're in a pandemic. What can you do to jump in and engage? But as you all know, he has a really cool project. You can walk around that site and you're just jaw dropped and you're in awe. And so I thought, really simple, I could just go out there with my iPhone and, just do a virtual tour and get it out to an audience. Well, that morphed into a full-blown series of getting a panel on board, getting a slide presentation, getting a video on board, and Flight Goodyear was our very first project that we featured. We also featured, obviously, Globe and their project. So where we're heading in 2022, I think we've had a lot of things happen in the community that's brought our attention to what do we need to look like next? What do we need to celebrate? What do we need to be concerned about? One of the things, going back to the average age or the median age of the West Valley, is looking at how young our community is. Do we have the right opportunities for leaders to engage, young leaders to engage? And that's an area that you're going to see us more time in, is identifying the emerging leaders in our community and promoting them and leading up to a Best of the West award to really celebrate and highlight these people, because I'm sure none of us plan on being around these tables in the next 30 years, right? Well, maybe Brandon does. Councilmember, Vice Mayor Hampton, I'm sure you do. But, in 30 years, 40 years, we're all going to be doing different things, and we want to make sure that we're actually developing those leaders and highlighting them and bringing them into conversations. Initially, we thought, well, we're going to have a whole new committee called, the Emerging Leaders Committee. And the more we talked about it, the more we realized, well, that's not how you bring them into conversations. You actually bring them to the same table so they know what's going on and they know what you were thinking, Mayor, and they can carry that on, as opposed to, that total disconnect. Obviously, diversity and inclusion, there's been a lot around that over the last 20 months or so, and we took a step back and looked at the demographics that we have in the West Valley. And as you all know, we are a very diverse community. When we talk to companies, they're looking at diversity when they make the decision to locate. I was on a panel a few months ago and with a few other economic development folks, and there was a company on that panel, and the company said we were going to choose between the Phoenix metro area and the Salt Lake City metro area, but diversity is one of the things that we hold true as one of our corporate values, and Salt Lake City could not answer that question for us, so it was a no-brainer that we decided to locate within the Phoenix metro. That told me that we were definitely on the right track, and we started really pulling the demographics, and so we'll be doing a better job of promoting that in the future. Regional homelessness, we know that that's increasingly an issue. Multifamily housing, what does that mean? Is it really a dirty word? And so how do we start having those, kind of tough conversations around these things that you're all having to deal with? So that's where we are heading in the future. And with that, I think I'm at 37 minutes, so I think that's why Councilmember Pizzillo left, because I wasn't going to hit the 59 minutes that he wanted me to. So I'll leave that up to you all for questions.
Sherry?
Well, it's not really a question, but it's a comment. Thank you very much for all you do and all Westmark does for us here around this table, our community, and the whole West Valley, the region as a whole, because I think it bleeds into cooperation that a lot of places don't have. So I've always been very impressed in how much you get out there, and since you've taken over and your team has done just a fabulous job, just keep getting the message out even through the pandemic. So I want to thank you for that. I'm really excited for the Emerging Leaders Program and see how you do that and to bring diversity, because I think those are great conversations to have. So thank you, and thank your team.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Lortano.
Laura?
Well, I've certainly gotten to learn a lot more about Westmark now being involved, and definitely appreciate everything that you do. The fighting the perception of the West Valley, how it used to be and how it is now is a big part of what you do. And you put facts and figures and all the human interest things to make it all come together. So I want to thank you. I also wanted to comment that during the pandemic, you guys really did a nice pivot and just kept things going. Had the opportunity to attend a lot of webinars and certainly the virtual tours and things like that, but you responded so promptly and just kept on going. And so kudos to you and your team for everything that you did to keep that going. You know, I've just been kind of amazed and almost overwhelmed about how robust your agenda is, and you have events all the time. And so there's definitely something for everyone. And I think the Career Expos is certainly very timely. Everybody's hiring. Everywhere you go, people are desperate for employees. And so I think whatever you can do to continue to help our employers fill that need would be awesome. And then lastly, you know, with our population growth and with Goodyear really emerging as a regional leader, we just want to comment whatever our sponsorship level is, we should evaluate where we are and whether it's appropriate for the level we're at now.
Any other comments?
Thank you very much.
Well, I just want to compliment you. I've been with you since the day they hired you and before that. And I will say that I believe that we have more purpose now from the years before. And you've taken the organization and really done a great job with it. It's not something that was easy. This is, I think, one of the most difficult groups to finally get going. Don't you agree?
I absolutely agree.
Because it had a history behind it. It wasn't a good history. There were portions of it that were good. Mm-hmm. So I congratulate you and your staff. You have a wonderful staff now. And I think that's going to have to grow too as we grow. And I see a big difference between economic development in our city and Westmark. I see there is a partnership there. You know what each other are doing. And so it can't hurt anything. The other thing you've drawn is, it's amazing from when I first started working with the city, how many of the businesses want to be in it and attend, and they never did before. And so I noticed the newbies come in, and they do ask about it. They have heard about it. Mm-hmm. So congratulations to you and your staff.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anything else? Thanks so much for coming tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate your continued support. Westmark is a lot stronger today, but it really is because of your leadership, your continued investment of time and treasure. So I really appreciate it. And I do have a rock star team that during the pandemic, they just pivoted with me and they just went along and did all the crazy things that I wanted to do. So
they worked hard.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, we have a regular meeting at 6 o'clock, so you have 20 minutes to chat or to get some work done, all right? This meeting is adjourned.